What's up, everybody? I'm Josh Meek, the Uber Geek. Welcome to Pretty Dece, your daily entertainment and pop culture show. Today on the show, we're going to talk about some movie news because Michael Bay is making a movie for Netflix, and this movie is going to star Ryan Reynolds. That's the big news of the day. Michael Bay is, of course, the prime example of just big, dumb popcorn cinema. He's done good stuff and bad stuff, ranging from Armageddon, Bad Boys, to the plethora of Transformers movies. And no matter kind of what quality his stuff he puts out is, or what you might think the quality is, it all is like on a very massive scale. There are huge explosions and crazy CG and these big budgets. He is definitely the quintessential action movie director. So the fact that he's now making a movie for Netflix is actually kind of surprising. Up until now, those types of movies aren't really something that you've known Netflix originals to be about, but clearly that's something that Netflix wants to change, and love him or hate him, Michael Bay is coming to Netflix. So, as I mentioned, up until now, that's really not something you have known Netflix for. They've really proven their kind of worth and their ability with original television shows up until now. With the kind of plethora of Netflix original shows, there's tons of examples of really amazing TV that Netflix has produced. But as of late, they've shown that they want to do the same thing with movies, and they're really getting into it in a big way. I think that the Will Smith starring Bright is a perfect example of that. Now they're going after Michael Bay to kind of continue that train. So we do know that Michael Bay's movie is going to be called Six Underground and will star Ryan Reynolds, as I mentioned, who obviously is a very big name actor. He's hot off the heels of what is shaping up to be a very successful movie in Deadpool 2, and he's coming to an original starring role in a Netflix movie. So just as big of a get as Will Smith was for Bright, Netflix is pulling no punches here to get some really big name directors and stars into their films. And if Bright's any indication, this movie should look very impressive. There wasn't anything about Bright that looked low budget. There wasn't anything that would have made it look out of place next to any big budget summer blockbuster movie that we've gotten over the past couple years. So Netflix, is not really a place where crappy movies are heading to live by any means whatsoever. So I don't think we have to worry that this Michael Bay movie won't really stack up to the other Michael Bay movies. I think we can expect a ton of explosions, as we've come to love or hate from his movies. Now, the press release didn't give us much indication about what Six Underground was about, but The Hollywood Reporter is saying that this movie follows 6 billionaires who fake their own deaths to form an elite team and take down bad guys. That certainly sounds like a Michael Bay movie to me. Now, we also know that this movie is being written by Rhett Reese and Paul Wernick. That's the duo behind both Deadpool and Deadpool 2, and they're also executive producing this film. So, Deadpool is that kind of perfect mix of action and also raunchy comedy, which is something that Michael Bay movies are typically going for. He really loves that mix. I think Bad Boys is probably the perfect example of something he's done that really toes that line. So kind of the match made in heaven for those writers and this director. And honestly, this type of thing, a big budget director showing up on Netflix, is maybe the way of the future. I think we'll start seeing a lot more of this because it appears that Netflix is a very good home for these directors because of increased creative freedom. They're seemingly not as beholden to a studio calling all the shots, and to some extent, Netflix can afford to fail a little bit more than the normal studios can. Obviously, you're already paying for Netflix, so if a Netflix original movie tanks, it's not as immediate of an impact on Netflix as it would be for a studio. Obviously, a studio, has to pay off all the debts they incurred throughout the movie, so they need those ticket sales. But if no one streams a movie that shows up on Netflix, it's not really an immediate impact. Netflix is already getting your subscription money for that month, And no one's probably going out to cancel their subscription just because they watched one terrible movie on Netflix. It would take a much longer history of failure to deliver in Netflix originals. So in a way, there's a bit more of a cushion, and because of that cushion, there's a bit more of a creative freedom. There's a bit more of a chance to be weird and artistic with these films, like we saw with Bright. They really went out and took a chance on what was a really weird concept for a film, and were able to do something that we maybe wouldn't have seen from a normal studio. So, I'm definitely interested in seeing more of that, especially in that vein, if it goes down the route of weird and interesting and artistic stuff that lets directors and actors and writers be a lot more creatively free than they maybe otherwise could, because they're maybe a little bit less beholden on the bottom line. So we should know more about Six Underground as it gets closer to its 2019 release, but it does begin production this summer. So that's going to do it for Pretty Dece for today. Thank you very much for joining me to talk about Michael Bay signing up with Netflix. Pretty crazy news there. If you like the show and want to see more, new episodes of Pretty Dece premiere weekdays at 8 p.m. Eastern on twitch.tv/PrettyDeceShow. You can also check out the daily episodes on the podcast feed or on the YouTube channel at PrettyDeceShow.com/video. Finally, catch me on Facebook and Twitter at Pretty Dece Show.